Hi there, folks. I'm just going to give a few moments to allow for people to join, and then we'll go ahead and get started.
Evening, everyone. Ooh, a couple of familiar names in chat tonight. It's always nice to see.
All right, the numbers are climbing pretty steadily, but I won't take up more of your time. So welcome everyone to our domestic admissions live stream. We're really excited to welcome you to our session today. My name's Sarah, and I'll be moderating the session. And today I'm joined by our manager of admissions here at Trent, Connor Koch. We're excited for the path that you have ahead of you and to share all of the reasons why Trent has been the #1 Ontario University for undergraduate students for the past 13 consecutive years. Tonight, we'll have Connor start off with his presentation, and then following that, the floor is open for all of you to ask questions directly to our staff members. So with that, I'll pass the floor over to Connor. And if you do have any questions along the way, please feel free to put them in the Q&A chat as we go along. Off to you, Connor.
Thanks, Sarah, and hi, everyone. Thanks for your patience in us getting started this evening. As Sarah has mentioned, my name is Connor Koch. I am the manager of undergraduate admissions here at Trent. So all of the applications that you have made to Trent are, eventually through the absolutely wonderful team that I have at Trent. We take a look at all of those applications, we make decisions, and then from there we decide and support your journey towards Trent. As Sarah has mentioned, there is the Q&A question and answer feature included in our webinar this evening. If you do have questions that do come up, we will be answering those, or definitely some of those live at the end of our presentation. Sarah may be answering some of those as we go through the presentation this evening. And those that we aren't able to answer today, we will definitely make sure that we provide some resources to get you those answers as much as possible. I'm going over a little bit as to what Sarah said and duplicating some of that, but today's live stream session is focused towards domestic students. So the presentation is geared towards our domestic applicants. We did do a virtual open house last week for our international students. However, we will do our best to answer international focus questions. This evening's presentation is focused towards domestic applicants. So without further ado, we will get started. I'm going to talk for about 20-25 minutes this evening, maybe a little more, maybe a little less, depending on how I where we're going with this, and then the rest of it will be dedicated towards Q&A. So put all those questions in chat as we go, and we will get started. So if you haven't yet already made an application to Trent, application for our domestic applicants are open for all 3 of the semesters that we do accept applications for. So applications are open still for winter 2024. Applications are open for summer 2024, and the most common application term is for fall 2024 at this stage. So if you are a current Ontario high school student and you're applying to Trent, applications for that term in the fall are open. They did open in September of this year, so a little bit earlier than some past years. As a domestic applicant, you will be applying on the Ontario University Application Centre. So if you are currently studying in an Ontario high school, you are classified as what's called a 101 applicant. On the Ontario University Application Centre, you are considered an undergraduate applicant. You make your application on the Ontario University Application Centre, the OUAC. You'll fill out that profile. That profile will ask you to confirm the school that you're in. It will ask you to confirm your birth date and provide all of the personal information that we require at Trent in order to make a decision on your application. It will also ask you for your OEN, your Ontario Education Number. So in the past, as an Ontario high school applicant, you were provided a PIN number, a personal identification number that came from your high school guidance office. This year, the Ontario University Application Centre made a bit of a change and made it so that you don't need that PIN number, but you do need your Ontario Education Number. Your Ontario Education Number can typically be found on the top of any of your report cards, or in a lot of cases as well, in your online school profiles as well. So anywhere where you can log in and check the status of your grades or check, any outstanding courses and things like that, oftentimes your OEN, your Ontario Education Number, will also be present there. You'll need that Ontario Education Number to link you as a student to your grades. And we'll talk a little bit about the admission process and a little bit about how grades come to Trent in a couple of slides. The nice thing is that as an Ontario high school student, you don't need to worry about any of that. All of that is done for you. If you are a domestic student from outside of Ontario, so if you're a domestic high school student, say you're studying in Quebec, in Yukon, New Brunswick and Saskatchewan and Alberta, British Columbia, wherever you might be, you absolutely still can apply to Trent, and you would be applying as well on the Ontario University Application Centre. You would just be referred to as what was previously called a 105 applicant, so a non-Ontario high school applicant. If this is the case, you will make an account, you'll submit your application, and then from there you will follow the process to have your high school send us some transcripts. We'll talk a little bit about that in a couple of slides. One thing that I do want to mention about the Ontario University Application Centre is that because it's a centralized application service, you can apply to any of the 22 publicly funded universities in Ontario using the Ontario University Application Centre. On there, with your base application fee, so the base application fee is $156. With that base application fee, you will be able to apply to 3 programs at up to 3 different institutions with that base fee. For instance, you could apply one program to Trent, one program to Nipissing, one program to Queen's University, for instance. You could apply 2 programs at Trent, one program at Ontario Tech. You could apply to 3 programs at Trent. You are limited in that you can never apply to more than 3 programs at one particular institution. So you can pay for an application for a 4th, a 5th, a 6th, a 7th application beyond that initial 3. You do pay about $50 per choice above your original 3 applications. And from there, again, you can only apply to a maximum of 3 different programs at one institution. So you could apply to 2 programs at Trent, 2 programs at Ontario Tech, so a total of 4, $156 plus a 4th choice for another $50, but you could never apply to 4 programs at Trent. The reason for this, it's a pretty standard policy with the Ontario University Application Centre. Its goal is to make sure that you really are narrowing down what you're most interested in, to make sure that you are, applying to programs that you are most interested in, and to save a little bit of money as well through that process. If you are an international applicant in today's session, you are able to apply either as an Ontario high school student, if you're currently studying in Ontario, or as a non-Ontario high school student as well on the Ontario University Application Centre. On the Ontario University Application Centre. Deadlines for our high school applicants and for Ontario-based students will be in January. So January 15th is the deadline for high school applicants or 101 applicants to make an application. This is the first day that universities in Ontario may choose to close their programs. So this is called the equal consideration deadline. So make sure that you have your application into Trent by January 15th, and then you don't need to worry about anything else after that. As I said, we'll talk in a couple slides about the actual process and what happens over the next coming months. Once you make your application, 28 hours. So typically the next business day, you will receive an email from Trent with your Trent ID. Your Trent ID, the 7-digit code that will follow you through your studies at Trent, that's unique to you. That Trent ID will follow you from your, maybe your initial undergraduate degree. If you decide to come back and do a graduate program, that'll be there. If you decide to come back and work at the university a little bit later, that will be your staff ID as well. It's a unique ID that will follow you through and really is that first connection you have to the absolutely incredible Trent family that we have. That will include a link to activate what we call the My Trent portal. And the My Trent portal is a centralized application hub where you can track the status of your application at Trent. On here, you'll be able to see the status of your application. You'll be able to see if we've requested or required any additional documents from you as a student. And you'll also be able to see what, submit anything in addition that may be required. At Trent this year, we no longer have any programs that require what we call supplemental applications. So these were documents or external tests that you may have had to complete. This year at Trent, we have none of those. So there's nothing that you need to do once you make your application to Trent as an Ontario high school applicant, other than make sure your grades are submitted to us via your high school. So you don't need to submit any essays. You don't need to submit a Casper test for the nursing program, for instance. We removed that requirement for the 2024 cycle. You just need to make sure that your application is submitted by that January 15th deadline. If you're not in Ontario and you would like to self-report your grades, you're absolutely welcome to do so. There's a portal form on the MyTrent portal called the Canadian High School Self-Reported Grades. In here, you'll be able to manually enter your grades or your predicted grades and let us know in advance what you anticipate those grades to be, and we'll be able to use that as part of our admission process. If you are planning on upgrading a course. So if you are currently studying in high school and you know that you're going to be taking retaking your biology course in the fall, you're absolutely able to do so. You need to submit what we call the intention to upgrade form, just to let us know directly that you are taking that biology course or you are retaking that math course that you may not have done so well in. And it gives us that information so that when we're making our admission decisions, we're able to take that into consideration. If you're a student who may not meet the traditional requirements and you qualify as what we call a mature student, there is a mature student supplemental application form that's also provided on the MyTrent portal. To qualify as a mature student, you must be over the age of 21. You've been out of any post-secondary or secondary studies for at least 2 years, and you're not admissible under other existing admission criteria. So being a mature student doesn't just mean that you're not coming directly out of high school. You're actually only considered the mature student if you meet those requirements. Out of school for more than 2 years, over the age of 21, and you're inadmissible under other admission criteria as well. So the MyTrent portal is a great place to track the status of your application. We will also provide you the update to pull up any emails or documents that we've sent you. So it is a running record of all of the communication that Trent has sent you about your application, about any offers that you may receive, and allows you to pull that up very quickly for reference, for bragging rights as well, to support you through that process. So I've talked a lot about so far how to go through and how to submit the actual application, but what happens after you submit that application? And kind of what happens between now and between September when we start or when you start at Trent in the fall. If you're applying to a different semester, if you're applying into January, or if you're applying into the May semester in the summer, you can push some of these dates back accordingly. And it's typically a pretty good representation of what to expect out of each of those application and admission cycles. So if you're an Ontario high school student right now and you make an application today, we would receive your application typically the next business day from the Ontario University Application Centre. And then from there, we will be waiting on your high school to submit us the grades of your courses, whether those are in progress grades or your overall grade 11 average. So up to about mid-November and early December, all our admissions team has to make a decision on you as an applicant is your overall grade 11 grade. So in some cases, we do send out early offers of admission at Trent to students who have exceptionally high averages and are registered in a certain number of grade 12 courses, the minimum of 6 4U or 4 M-level courses. And these early offers of admission can sometimes go out in the middle of November. We have started sending offers of admission to our high school applicants, and these are typically based off of a combination of any existing grade 12 grades that you may have, and then your grade 11 grades upon your grade 11 average upon application. As more and more grades become available to us, your high schools will submit us this content and these grades automatically. So right around now, we start to receive your semester 1 midterm grades. And when we get that, we start sending out more offers to students who are meeting those minimum requirements and our internal minimum requirements, our competitive requirements. When we get final semester 1 grades, typically in February, we'll send another round of offers in. And then anytime we get additional grades, we get additional documents from you, we will automatically reassess your application. So every time that we get that updated grade for you, if your grades go up, we will reassess you at that point to make sure that to see if you're eligible for an offer, and if so, send you an offer. We'll talk about the actual offers in a couple minutes here. Once we kind of get into past that deadline, so once we get into, after January, this is often when we start sending offers to our capped and our competitive programs. Our competitive programs include programs like forensic science and nursing, which may have a limited number of spots in them. And we wait a little bit to start sending offers to these programs normally, so that we have a good idea of what the entire applicant pool looks like. So if you were to look in our Trent view book, you would see that programs like forensic science, our computer science co-op program, our business administration co-op programs, conservation biology, programs like kinesiology, are all limited enrollment programs or capped competitive programs, and actually have competitive admission ranges for them. These admission ranges typically are above the minimum requirements for that program, and this is typically where we find that averages for students being admitted into the program the year before have landed. So for instance, our nursing program may have a competitive average. Actually, I'll pick on business administration. Our business administration co-op program may have a competitive average in the 87 to 92% range. And that's an estimated range that we provide for our applicants to have a goal in mind. Meeting that minimum does not guarantee an offer of admission into that program, as the competitive range is dependent on the number of applicants and how high the average is in that particular entering class. The average can be higher than what's posted, it can be lower than what's posted. It really just depends on the caliber of applicants in a particular cycle. So once we have a really good idea of what that looks like, we start sending offers to our capped and our competitive programs, typically after January. Once we, if you've applied by that January 15th deadline, Trent has a deadline in order to give you an answer. So if you apply by January 15th, Trent actually has until the end of May. I believe it's May 27th this year, maybe the 30th. One of those 2 dates, essentially the end of May, to say yes, to say no, or to say we're waiting a little bit longer to make a decision on you as an applicant. So you will have some sort of decision in mind by the end of May, because the first day that we require you to accept your offer and the day that we suggest that you accept your offer by is June 1st of next year. So June 1st of 2024 may seem like it's, very, very far away, but it is a little under 7 months away. So that's a little bit closer than I care to admit. We're barely getting into the winter now, and to think that summer is coming up in 6 months is a little bit crazy to me. But you have to accept your offer by that June 1st deadline. This ties in with our residence application deadline. This also ties in with information related to scholarships as well. So it is a relatively important timeline to be aware of. When Trent is calculating your admission average, and this is the case for Ontario high school students, and I'll talk about non-high school students here in a minute. If you are an Ontario high school student, that's a mouthful late at night, we calculate your admission average on your best 6 grade 12 4U university 4M mixed level courses. So the best 6 4U or 4M courses is what we calculate your admission average off of, and what we calculate your scholarship average off of as well. So what this means is that for the vast majority of our programs, with the exception of nursing, we will always take those top 6 4U or M courses, even if one of your prerequisite courses is the lowest mark, is a lower mark. So, for example, the computer science business administration co-op, I'll pick on that because I've used it as an example already tonight. The business administration co-op program requires a math. All of our business administration programs do. If you have 7 4U or 4M level courses and math is your lowest mark, as long as your prerequisite, your math has a passing grade, so 50% or above, we will still take your best 6 courses. We'll drop that math from your average, and we'll calculate your admission average and your scholarship average from your top 6 4U or 4M courses. This is a piece of information that I would strongly suggest you ask each and every university that you're applying to how they calculate your grades, as every one of us does it a little bit differently. I wish there was a little bit more consistency about this in Ontario, but unfortunately, every school does it a little bit differently, and every program is different. But in short, we will look at your best 6 4U or 4 M-level courses in order to calculate your admission average. As a non-Ontario high school student, so if you're applying from outside of the province, we will typically look at your best grades as well. We do post our out-of-province admission requirements on our website, and it does vary from province to province and from territory to territory as well. So in some provinces, we may look at your best 5 marks, we may look at your best 4 marks, we may look at all of your marks, depending on the curriculum that you're studying. I would strongly suggest taking a look at our out-of-province admission requirements, which can be found under our admissions section of our website if you are a student from out of province, or if you'd like to put what province you're from in the Q&A, along with questions with a question about how we calculate your average. I can definitely look at that in the Q&A a little bit later. Once you have an offer of admission, and we'll talk about, like I said, we'll talk about that in a minute or two. Once we get into June all the way up until September, this is when we make sure that you have met all of the conditions of your offer. I'll talk more in detail about this a little bit later, but you are required to finish out your diploma and finish all of your prerequisite courses. So essentially between today in December up until June, there's lots that's happening. We are accepting applications until the middle of January. We will say and give you an answer by the end of May, whether that's a yes, you're coming to Trent in the fall, whether that's a, we're not yet sure if your grades will be sufficient enough to come, and we may delay your offer a little bit, or we may issue you what we call an alternative offer of admission to a different program. I talked a little bit earlier about our early offers of admission, so offers of admission that come out in mid-November into December. You do not need to apply for early offers of admission in addition to having made an application to Trent. All you have to do is make your application to Trent. You don't need to identify anywhere that you want to be considered for early offers of admission. We just do it automatically. Okay, on to the next slide. One of the nice things about how we do our admission at Trent when we're calculating your average is we don't care how or when you took your grade 12 4U or 4M courses. All we care about is that you completed it and that they were completed in an accredited institution. So what this means is that if you take a night school course, or if you take an alternative education course, if you take an online course, if you repeat a grade 12 course, we will always take those grades at face value. We don't change them. We don't inflate or deflate them at all. And as long as it's completed by an accredited organization, so whether it's your high school, whether it's your school board, if it's an online course provider like ILC, the Internet Learning Center, or virtual high school, we will absolutely accept those courses. And the neat thing as well is that we don't we will always take the higher grade for repeated courses as well. So if you take a course, you don't do so well, and you decide to repeat that course, we will take the higher grade, and we won't even look at the original grade at that point, even if it's a failing grade. So it may be in your benefit to repeat that course, to do it again. It may also be in your benefit to take 7 or 8 courses in your grade 12 year. And I know that's not a popular thing to say. I was in grade 12 once as well, and I lived for my spares. But in some cases, having that 7th or even that 8th course, in our case, where we can drop those lowest grades for you, may absolutely benefit you in your application admission average. It can also provide a monetary benefit to you as well if those courses would bring you up in a scholarship tier as well. We do offer scholarships at Trent starting at 80% in your top 6 4U or M courses, and 5% tiers all the way up to 99%, in that 95 to 100% range as well. In some cases, I talked a little bit about this, is we may choose to defer a decision. What this means is that if, come the end of May, we're taking a look at your grades and maybe you're close to the minimum requirements that we're admitting at, or we're not quite sure on your application yet, we may choose to defer a decision on you as an applicant. This means that we're going to wait until final grades are available. This can be as late as July. And we do try to limit this as much as possible, but in some cases, we do need additional information in order to make a final decision on you as an applicant, in which case we may choose to defer a decision on your application. And again, you will receive that information by the end of May. So we'll receive either a yes, congratulations on an offer, a no, an alternative offer, or a deferred admission decision by the end of May if you're a high school applicant, an Ontario high school applicant. If you're from outside of Ontario and you're a high school applicant, or you're a transfer student, for instance, from a college or a university, these deadlines don't apply. We do rolling admission for all of our non-Ontario high school students, there are, we recommend that you adhere to the posted deadlines as well, except by June 1st, but it's not enforced as much. So you've applied, we have assessed your application, and we have given you an offer of admission. The best possible option for that is a offer of admission to the program that you applied for. Every offer for our Ontario high school applicants will always be a conditional offer. The conditional offer means that there is still some information that we need from you, or some pieces of your education that you need to complete prior to being able to start in your program at Trent in the fall. As an Ontario high school applicant, you will have a couple of conditions. The first is that you have to maintain a minimum average equal to or above the minimum average for your program. This can be 70% for our general programs, 75% for some heightened programs, or in some cases 80% for some of our heightened programs as well. Again, this is based off of your best 6 4U or 4M level courses in every case, with the exception of nursing and 1 or 2 other programs. This is outlined very clearly on your My Trent portal under your admission status as well. The second requirement is that you must have passed each of the prerequisite courses that are required for your program. They don't need to be included in your admission average, but you do need to pass each of the prerequisite courses required for your program that you're going into. So back to the example of business administration co-op. If you're admitted into business administration co-op, you need to maintain an average above 80% in your best 6 4U or M courses, and you have to have at least 1 4U or 4M math that has a grade of 50% or higher. If that's one of your top 6 courses, amazing. If it's not part of your top 6 courses, that's fine. You just need to have completed that course and have 6 other 4U or M courses available. The last requirement is that you must pass your Ontario secondary school diploma. This probably goes without saying for the majority of students, but I always remind students, because unfortunately we have a couple students each year who think that they don't have to do anything after they get their offer of admission. If you do not graduate, you are not able to attend university. If for some reason your average drops below the minimum for your program, below 70%, or you fail one of those prerequisite courses, it's unfortunate and we don't like doing it, but we will revoke and rescind your offer of admission. You need to make sure that you're on top of these conditions, that you've completed your minimum 6 4U or M courses. We will send reminders about this, but it is ultimately your responsibility to make sure that you pass your Ontario secondary school diploma, that you have the minimum 6 4U or M courses, you pass the minimum average, and you pass each of your prerequisite courses. Failure to meet any of those might mean, or will mean, that your offer of admission will be rescinded and you will not be able to attend the university in your starting term. As a non-Ontario high school student, the conditions will be very similar. It might be that you need to graduate from your British Columbia secondary school diploma. It might be that you need to complete the minimum 5 courses at the academic level with a minimum average as well. The same types of requirements are the same, except the actual conditions will be slightly different for Ontario students versus non-Ontario students. The second part of this slide, so the left-hand side of this slide, if we're reading right to left in this case, is a section called alternate offers. At Trent, we do issue alternate offers to students who may not meet the competitive requirements for some of our capped and competitive programs. An alternate offer is a offer to a program that you did not apply for that is in a closely related field of the program that you did apply for. I'm going to keep running with the example of business administration co-op because we've been using it all night. Business administration co-op has an extremely limited number of seats. We anticipate that the academic competitive average for this program will be in the high 80s, low 90s. And if a student is outside of this range significantly, we may issue you an alternative offer to the business administration accounting program or business administration human resources instead of the co-op program to secure you a spot in Trent in the fall, to provide some recognition that you've met the requirements of a university program, and that's absolutely something to be proud of. And the neat thing about alternative offers is they're automatic. You don't need to apply for them. You are considered for them automatically. And the other thing is that it doesn't remove you from consideration from the program that you applied for originally. So if you applied for business administration co-op and you don't get in, we give you an alternative offer to business administration. If your average and your best 6-4 UM courses goes up and it goes back into that competitive range for the business administration co-op, we will continue to consider you for that original program, provided there's space available in that program. And you don't need to do anything about this. We will automatically consider every student who's received an alternative offer to the original program they applied for. This is the case for business administration. This is the case for computer science. This is the case for nursing. It applies across the board. You can even accept your alternative offer. You can say, yes, I want to come to Trent in the fall for business administration. And a spot opens up or your average increases sufficiently to allow you entry into that original program a little bit later down the road. We do also offer alternative offers to students who may be slightly below the core admission requirements of the university, either to the degree progression pathway program, which is a year-long part-time program where you take 2 credits, so 4 courses over the course of 2 semesters, to help prepare you for university. Once you complete that program with a minimum 60% average, you are able to proceed directly into degree studies in your next year. The goal of this program is to support students who may be slightly under the posted published admission requirements as a transition pathway into university. The second option is an alternative offer to what we call the Durham College or Fleming College General Arts and Science program. This is a year-long full-time college program where you study college courses at either Fleming College or Durham College, depending on the campus you applied for at Trent, either Durham or Peterborough. And you take a full year of full-time studies at Durham College or Fleming College. If you complete that program with a minimum average, you are then able to proceed directly into full-time degree studies with a year's worth of transfer credits at Trent afterwards. So this is really a neat option and a really accessible pathway for students who might be slightly below the university admission requirements, whose ultimate goal may be to study and to complete a degree. At Trent, we're very passionate about keeping as many doors open for students as possible. So we will do everything that we can to provide you with options if you might be slightly below our admission requirements or below the competitive average for programs. So the big question after this is, if you're accepted, how will you know? And the short answer to this is we're going to tell you. We're going to let you know that you've been admitted. At Trent, whether you've been admitted as a 101 high school student, as a domestic high school applicant or college applicant from Manitoba, we're going to send you an email congratulating you on your offer of admission. You will also receive, that will outline the program you've been admitted to, it will outline your conditions. It will also outline any scholarships that you may be eligible for or are tracking towards. If you are an Ontario high school student and you have accepted your offer, after you've accepted your offer, keep an eye out in the mail. There is a surprise coming in the next couple of weeks. Hopefully before the break, might be slightly after the break. But if you have accepted your offer already, there will be something that's sent out to you. And then in order to accept that offer, it's very simple. If you applied as a high school applicant, you will go onto the Ontario University Application Centre and you're going to click the accept button on that program. We will then get that information back to Trent, and then we will record that in our system and then, start treating you like a student until, you start your program next September. If you applied as a non-Ontario high school student and you also applied on the Ontario University Application Centre, you will also accept your offer through the OUAC, the Ontario University Application Centre. You do need to accept that offer by June 1st of 2024 in order to, retain that offer. After that date, we may pull those offers back, but we will let you know prior to that. I've talked a lot about Ontario high school applicants today. I did want to talk briefly as we are finishing up in our presentation, and this is a good time to remind the group that we do have the question and answer period at the end coming up in a couple minutes. If you do have questions that haven't been answered, I do see that Sarah's been in chat answering a couple of them. If they haven't been answered yet, we will answer them live. If you do have questions, feel free to add them in there and we will get to them in just a couple minutes. But if you are a college or university student currently studying in Canada, whether it's Ontario or another province or one of the territories, you are able to apply to Trent. Trent is one of the most one of the most friendly credit transfer institutions in the province. Again, it's another one of those mouthfuls in the province of Ontario. And we, really support you through this transfer process. When you make your application, we will automatically submit your transcripts through our internal transfer credit database. We will match that up to any courses in that database and automatically give you transfer credits for it. If a course is not found in our transfer credit database, we will ask you to provide course syllabi. Those course syllabi will then be sent out to our internal departments at Trent, who will then review it and say, yes, this is a Trent course, this is what it's equal to, and we'll go back and apply that onto your profile. So this process is automatic. You don't need to do anything. We will prompt you through this process. And it's also free. You don't need to apply for a credit, for a transfer credit assessment, and there's no charges through the entire transfer credit process in order for us to complete it and apply the transfer credits to your application as well. So I talked already about how to accept your offer. You would go onto the Ontario University Application Centre, the OUAC, and accept your offer there. Trent will get that information typically the next day, and then you will receive a follow-up email from Trent thanking you for accepting your offer as confirmation that you have received, that we have received that offer as well. So that's pretty well the end of my spiel. I do see that we do have a couple of questions in chat, but I did want to briefly mention as well, over the coming months, we do have some opportunities to come and visit with visit with campus, visit with Trent in person. If you missed our fall open houses in Durham and in Peterborough, don't worry, we do have new open houses and additional open houses coming up in the spring. So our upcoming Durham Greater Toronto Area Campus Open House will be hosted on Saturday, March 9th, 2024, between 11 a.m. and 2 p.m. And then our Peterborough Simons Campus Open House with the beautiful library in the back there right on the Otonabee River will be hosted on Friday, March 14th, 2024 from 10 a.m. to 2 p.m. Come to campus, talk with professors, talk with the wonderful services that we have on campus. Come chat with me, say you saw me at one of our webinars in the fall. Lots of opportunities to connect with Trent in person. We also run campus tours Monday through Saturday. 6 days a week. You can book those tours by visiting trentu.ca/discover and really getting a feel for what campus is like yourself. Okay, that's all I have. I'm going to pass it back to Sarah here briefly, who I believe will be moderating our question and answer period here. We'll get going from there.
Perfect. Thank you so much, Connor. That was a really informative presentation. You got into so many different answers to questions that I have already seen coming up through this chat. So if you folks do have more questions that you would like to ask Connor, please feel free to type them into the chat. And without further ado, we'll get started with what we do already have coming in. All right, so the first question is from a student who they graduated from Ontario High School last year, and they're currently doing a gap year. Do they currently apply as a 105 student since they're already graduated?
This is a great question, and the answer is yes. You would apply as a 105 student. The nice thing about the Ontario University Application Center right now, excuse me, the nice thing about that process is that it will actually guide you through it. You're going to create the account and you're going to answer a series of questions, and that will automatically classify you and automatically place you into the category that you're supposed to be. So it's actually very, very straightforward now. I refer to 101 and 105 as it's the vernacular that's been used by the Ontario University Application Center for years. I don't think you'll see reference to 101 and 105 on there anymore. All you'll see reference to is undergraduate. You'll pick the undergraduate application, answer the questions, and it will automatically classify you into the category that you need to be in.
Perfect. Thank you. Now, you spoke a little bit about alternate offers, but if somebody doesn't get into the program that they applied to, are they able to change programs on their OUAC application without applying again, or will that alternate offer kind of cover it for them?
So this really depends on the program you originally applied for and the alternative offer. So what I will say is that you can always make changes on the Ontario University Application Center. If you don't yet have an offer for a program, you can withdraw that application and then you can make a change at the same time. And actually, I think I'm going to answer the next question by answering this. But if you drop a Trent program and add a Trent program on the same transaction, you don't get charged for that. You don't get charged for anything that adds and subtracts to zero or sums out to zero if you're making changes on OAC to the same university. If you receive an alternative offer, I'll use the example of Business Administration Co-op again. Business Administration Co-op, if you receive an alternative offer to Business Administration Accounting, you could make a new application to a different program. Say you wanted business administration, human resources management. You could absolutely make a new application to that. I would strongly recommend just reaching out to our admissions team instead. We can change that alternative offer to pretty well whatever program you'd like, provided you meet the requirements for it. So if you say, Connor, I really want the business administration co-op, but if I don't want that, I want to go into criminology instead. That's okay. We can take a look at your application, see if you're eligible for criminology, and if you are, we can send you an offer to that program instead as part of that alternative offer process. So, Sarah, I am going to answer the next question that I see here as well about choices on OAC, because it kind of ties into this as well. When you have that base $156 application fee that you submit on the Ontario University Application Center, it comes with 3 choices to start. You can do all 3 choices one day. You can do history, communications, and chemistry at Trent day 1, and you're fine. If you wanted to add a 4th application to Queen's University, you'd pay $50 to add that 4th application. If you decide, I want to apply to communications today and I want to apply to criminology today at Trent, and then on Friday of this week, you say, actually, I want to add child and youth studies as well, that's fine. You won't get charged extra by not submitting them all at the same time. As long as you don't go above that initial 3, it's still within that $156. So it won't cost you more if it's part of that initial 3 applications. And it also doesn't cost you more if you drop a Trent program and add a Trent program in the same transaction. Excuse me.
Perfect. Thanks, Connor. All right. Now, so we have a student here and it's very specific to their situation, but maybe there are other folks here in a similar situation, so I'll bring it up. They've completed some adult education doing their 4U level courses. They're currently 20, but after March, they're going to be 21. So should they apply as a mature student?
This is a great question. I would recommend not applying as a mature student. I would recommend submitting your high school transcripts. Students who are admitted as a mature student under those criteria are actually limited in the programs that you can be admitted into. So we always try to admit students either on high school courses completed. If you don't have your Ontario Secondary School diploma, it may make a bit of a difference. I would suggest submitting an application. You will need to provide your transcripts from your adult education courses. Regardless, you do need to provide all post-secondary and all secondary within the last 10 years. We will take a look at that, and if you don't qualify looking on your high school grades, we will ask you to apply we will ask you to submit the requirements for the mature student application at that time.
Perfect. All right, well, hopefully that helped. Now, okay. So you mentioned the Trent and Fleming GAS and the Trent and Durham GAS programs. If somebody were to do one of those transfer pathways to us, does that make them eligible to go into the nursing program afterwards?
Thanks. And this is a question we get all the time. So the answer is no, it does not make you eligible to go into those programs. I'll put a bit of an asterisk on that. It doesn't normally admit you into those programs. So typically, if a student is going into the Fleming or the Durham transfer pathways, it's because their average is below the minimum 70% requirement. This is typically where it is. It's not for students who are at a 79% and are trying to be admitted into the nursing program, or at a an 85% and we're admitting at an 86. This is typically designed for students who are below the minimum admission requirements of the university. Under normal circumstances, when you complete that transfer program or the degree progression pathway program, you are eligible to proceed directly into full-time degree studies in a general program, or in a general honors program. So programs like cultural studies, communications, chemistry, business administration, not our capped competitive programs. However, if you do choose to apply back into nursing, if you do choose to apply into, we'll use nursing because that's the example, into nursing, you are absolutely able to apply, and we will use your grades from your most recent study in that. So if your average still needs to be in the competitive range for it, it doesn't guarantee you admission directly into either the program you applied for originally at Trent or into a program like nursing, but it will give you direct entry into a program that has a 70% admission requirement.
Awesome. All right, so many great questions. I'm just trying to filter through and see what to ask next.
Yeah, these are great questions.
Great. Eliza is asking, do you accept AP credits? If so, how will we know if it's been accepted?
Yeah, so AP advanced placement credits, we do absolutely accept them. We will take a look at them. We will mark them and grades over a certain grades with a minimum grade will be given a transfer credit for it as well. You will receive a notification if we do apply transfer credits as a result of AP courses. The requirement for our AP courses is that we will typically grant a transfer credit for students who have an AP, an advanced or an AP course, an advanced placement course with an exam grade of a 4 or better. So 4.
Awesome. We're getting a few more questions coming in about that GAS transfer program. So we'll go over with those first. So with that program, is that something that you can directly apply to if your average is lower, or is it something that you're able to apply through the college or university application process?
Yeah, so it's not a program that you can apply to directly. It is a program that is offered as an alternative offer only. If you do choose, if it is a program that you're interested in, submit your application, or better yet, send us an email, admissions@trenton.ca, and we can walk you through the process of making sure that you are able to be considered for that program.
Perfect. And follow up, kind of going off what you explained with nursing earlier, is our teacher's education stream considered one of those CAP programs, so you're not able to transfer in?
Yes, it is. You're not able to transfer into that way, as it is a 75% minimum average, a 75% average program.
Perfect. All right. And we have some capped programs as well at Trent, so kind of flowing into that too as well. But for the forensic science, about how many students are accepted into that program?
So forensic science, we have 3 programs: forensic science, forensic biology, and forensic chemistry. Typically, those programs themselves, they range slightly. So forensic chemistry and forensic bio do have caps somewhere in the 25 to 30 range for those 2 programs. Forensic science itself, I'm just pulling up one little sheet here, as that's one of the few numbers that I don't remember off the top of my head. Forensic science is about 80 students that we accept each year. So 80 for forensic science, about 35 for forensic biology, and about 25 for forensic chemistry.
Awesome. There's so many numbers to remember. I don't even know how you remember those few that you do. So good for you. Always helpful to have that chart handy though. Now, another CAPS program that we have is that dual chemical engineering degree.
Yes.
If somebody isn't given an offer into that program, what's an example of an alternative offer that they might receive?
Yeah. So the alternative offer for that program is set as the core chemistry program. So this is one of the programs that we fully understand that we don't have a program that is closely related to Swansea engineering that we can offer if you're not admitted into that program. So if you apply to the Swansea chemical engineering program and you're not admitted, you will receive an alternative offer to Trent's chemistry program. But we can chat if that is the scenario that you find yourself in, about what other programs you may be interested in at Trent, as there is an internal transfer process back into the chemical engineering program once you're at Trent, if you don't get into that program in first year. So if you do find yourself in that situation for the Swansea chemical engineering program, please feel free to reach out admissions@trentu.ca, and we can walk you through what you need to do to make sure that you're prepared to study and prepared to transfer in for your second year.
Right. Lots of program specific questions coming in. Is biomedical science very competitive, and do we wait for final grades in order to accept applicants to that program?
So we don't wait for final grades for biomedical sciences, which I think is a unique scenario in Ontario. And I wouldn't say that the program is particularly competitive. The program itself is in a good place right now in terms of the number of applicants, in terms of the number of students. We typically admit to that program, a couple of percent above the minimum posted average.
Great. And if somebody's interested in conservation biology, should they apply to both the 5-year co-op degree and the placement option that's the 4-year degree?
My suggestion is no, actually. I would strongly suggest just applying to the co-op program, as the co-op program has the highest average of the conservation biology programs. So conservation biology co-op has the highest competitive average. Conservation biology placement has the second highest, then conservation biology as a specialization has the third. So if you apply to conservation biology co-op and you're not admissible, we may issue you an offer to conservation biology placement. If you're not admissible to conservation biology placement, we might issue you an alternative offer to conservation biology. So if you want to be in conservation biology, my suggestion would only use one application for the conservation biology co-op, and then we will filter it down from there if you're not admissible.
Perfect. Save yourself a little bit of money with that application. It's going to come in handy when you're in university. For now, transferring over to transfer students now. We got a question about that.
All right.
So will students coming from another college or university, will they receive offers at the same time as everyone else?
This depends quite a bit. This depends on when your grades are available. So college and college grades are they're released on different schedules than high school grades. So we do a little bit more of rolling offers of admission when we do have college and articulation agreement admission. This means that when we have grades available for you, whether they're in progress or final, we will send offers at that time. So at the same time, no, but it could be earlier than high school applicants, depending on the grades that we have available.
Great. What are some possible alternate offer options for nursing students?
Yeah, so kinesiology, health and behavior. We have a health sciences specialization in our biology program. I've also seen students who want to do psychology. I've seen students who want an alternative offer to biomedical biology. I would say the majority of students who are receiving an alternative offer from nursing are taking a program that they know they can do very well in their first year, as the transfer in process to nursing is still highly competitive.
Great. All right. If somebody wants to change their major after first year, how does that work?
Yeah, so at Trent, we're very open to students changing their programs. We know that the program you start in is not the program often that some students finish it. The transfer in process the transfer process, change of major is very simple. There's a form on your My Trent portal that you submit. If it's a general program, so a non-capped or competitive program, that transfer request is completed through the department. Essentially, the department says yes or no, provided they have space in the programs. If it's a program that has a heightened admission requirement or has a prerequisite, so if you want to transfer into nursing, for instance, there is a process. That process and that form opens up in January of each year and typically closes by March. And then we look at your Trent grades for your admission. We will not go back to high school. We will purely look at your Trent grades. So it's very important that you make good choices in your first year as to what courses you're taking if your plan is to get into a different program after that.
Great. If somebody currently has an average below the minimum requirement for one of the more competitive programs that they're looking into, what would you recommend for them?
So is this the one that says general arts and science on it as well, Sarah?
It is, yes.
So if you're applying from a general arts and science program at Fleming College or Durham College and you have an average below the minimum average for that program, that average is pretty close to the minimum for the arts and for the teacher education stream program. I would strongly suggest sending us an email directly, admissions@trentu.ca, as our college and university transfer grades are often very slightly lower than what we have for our high school admission requirements. And the reason for this is because we recognize that college and university is more difficult than high school. It's just a fact of the education system. So we do have slightly different admission requirements for college and university transfer students, and that might put you in a range that would make it feasible. So send us an email, admissions@trentu.ca, and we can go over your particular case directly.
Perfect. Now, since students have that deadline to accept their offer June 1st, if they're waiting to hear about a competitive program, can they accept an offer to a different program in the meantime and still be considered for that competitive program?
100%, yes. Always. If you want to secure your spot at Trent, you can accept that alternative offer, and from there, you don't even need to ask us to reconsider you for that original program. You're always automatically considered for that as additional grades come in.
Perfect. Hopefully that'll ease some nerves for you folks. Now we're coming to a close with some questions over here. So if you folks do have more, please feel free to add them in as we continue to go. How many students are accepted into the biology program?
It's a great question. And I saw this question a little bit earlier, and I haven't really been able to find an answer to this. The biology program itself is kind of a general. I don't want to say general. It's a program that a lot of students end up either transferring back into, or it's a program that feeds into so many of our other programs. The biology courses, the biology labs and lectures are taken by students in forensics, students in psychology science, for instance. It's hard to say exactly how many students are accepted into that program. I would say that from a competitive average, we're looking very slightly above the minimum posted requirements for that program. Unfortunately, it doesn't give you an answer as to how many students are accepted into that program, as I don't have that number with me today. Yeah, we admit into that program just above the minimum admission requirement.
Perfect. Now, Heather's having some fee issues when it comes to their OUAC application. So when they've submitted their application, the total comes to $238 since there's a $70 supplementary fee. What's that supplementary fee for?
Yeah, so you're applying as a non-Ontario high school applicant. The Ontario high school applicants have that base $156 application fee and then $50 for choice in addition to that. As a non-Ontario high school student, the Ontario University Application Centre is a little bit more expensive, unfortunately. You do pay that base $156, and then you do pay a supplemental application fee per institution that you apply to. So the $70 application fee is actually what comes to Trent in order to process your application. The base $150 is provided to OAC in order to process the application. It's a unfortunate reality of the matter. Heather, if you are only applying to Trent, please send me an email directly, and we can definitely work something out, as we do have another avenue for domestic students who are only applying to Trent. I'm going to see if I can find your one of your questions. Heather, if you can just put another question in chat, I'll provide my email privately to you as well, as I don't think I can answer this one with a private message.
All right, so we'll move on in the meantime. And we see Heather's message. So Connor, there's that for you to respond to. Now, it seems that a couple of people have received offers from Trent. Congratulations to all of you folks. It's very exciting. But they're not seeing the offer on their OUAC portal. So is that a common issue? Is there another way for them to accept the offer?
It's not a common issue. I would say if you have submitted your application and we've sent you an offer and you don't have an offer of admission, it should reflect within 48 hours, 48 business hours. If it's still not there after that, please send us an email, admissions@trentu.ca, and we will look into the reason for it.
Perfect. And I've already put that email in the chat for you folks as well. So if you want to copy that, if you're having any issues, it's a very good resource for you folks to have. Now, let's see. What's the average range for kinesiology for admissions?
About 78%.
Perfect. Nice and succinct answer.
Yeah, that was a number I knew off the top of my head.
And Connor, I'm not so sure if this would be you that would be the best person. I might recommend that this person reaches out to the departments directly, but perhaps you can shed a little bit of light on this question.
Sure.
Somebody got accepted to both the honors of biology and biochemistry and molecular biology programs, but they're just struggling with understanding which program would best set them up for a doctor of pharmacy.
So the answer to this is both. And it's not a helpful answer. And the reason for that is doctorate of pharmacy programs have very specific requirements as to the courses you need to take in your undergrad. What I would strongly suggest is prior to accepting any program, if your plan is to go into pharmacy, look at the courses and the programs that are required in that doctor of pharmacy application. Compare it to the programs and the courses that you've been accepted for. Trent's academic calendar will actually show you what courses you're taking in that degree and match them up like course by course to make sure that it's meeting that requirement. If it's missing one course, it very well might be something that you can add as an elective course. Molecular biology is one that has a decently rigid structure over the course of the 4 years and not a whole lot of room for additional courses in there. So you want to make sure that whatever you're taking has that flexibility to allow you to take those courses to go on to be a doctor of pharmacy. And we do need more pharmacists in the world right now, so good for you.
What is the early acceptance deadline?
Yeah, so June 1st is the acceptance deadline. There is no early admission acceptance deadline. June 1st is that one and only deadline to accept your offer.
Perfect. And the average range for English literature?
70%.
Great.
Minimum of 70. Again, we typically admit a couple percent above that.
Perfect. Now, Riley says that they've noticed that some of her majors have specializations. How do those work and when can students choose that?
Awesome. Sarah, you may have to jump in at the end of this if I don't fully answer it. But so some majors come with specializations. I'm actually going to flip that wording and say that majors are more credits than specializations. It's different everywhere else, and it always confuses me. Essentially, the program you're applying for typically is your major or your specialization. In some cases, you can add an additional joint major, as we call them at Trent. You can add a second major or a second specialization in some cases, or an option, which is a mini minor, essentially. So, a small, short, or limited number of courses in a particular area of study. Typically, when you're making your application to Trent, you are selecting that major or that specialization that you are applying for. If you don't pick one, it's not the end of the world. You are absolutely able to change that major or change that specialization after you're at Trent through the change of major process, which we do try to make as straightforward as possible.
Great. Yeah, that's a very good overview. I would just add that You don't have to do a specialization if you don't want to do a specialization. It's sort of just an additional way for you, Riley, to gear your studies towards a specific area. So, for example, I'll go back to the business program because we've used it a few times tonight, but that's also the program that I graduated from Trent. Within our business program, we have 9 or 10 different specializations for you to choose from. So, sort of how a lot of our specializations work is that your first year and a half to 2 years will be pretty general. You'll be taking courses from all the different areas of business, for example. And then in your upper years is when you'll be specializing on that specific area of study. So let's say you choose accounting. In those upper years, you'll be really focused heavily on those accounting courses, for example. You'll want to meet with an academic advisor as well if you don't start a specialization right from the get-go, just to make sure that you can plan your degree to have all the courses that you need to reach those specialization requirements. But you do have a little bit of flexibility with when you want to choose those. Hopefully that helps.
Absolutely. Thank you for that.
Of course. All right. How many weeks does it take for Trent to come back with an admission decision after they receive all the required documents and grades?
I was just typing an answer to this, but you beat me to it. The answer to this is it depends. It depends on whether we have received all the required documents and grades. If you haven't heard from us within 10 business days of the application being complete in your eyes, please send us an email, admissions@trentu.ca, and we can check on that. If you're still waiting on a decision, so as an Ontario high school student at this point, if you don't have a decision, don't worry. We're still in the process of reviewing applications. We may be waiting for additional semester 1 grades to come in prior to making a decision on you as an applicant. If you're a non-Ontario high school applicant and you don't have a decision yet, it could be that we're still waiting on a transcript. Please check your required documents on your My Trent portal prior to reaching out, just to see if there is anything outstanding on your account. If there is a document outstanding, that is what we're waiting on. It is that document that we're waiting on in order to make a decision.
Perfect. And I think this might be our last question. No more really flowing in, and we're coming to the end of our time over here. So how does co-op work, specifically social works?
So one thing I'll say is that unfortunately the social work program doesn't actually offer a co-op. It does offer mandatory placements in the magnitude of, I think it's about 700 hours, a 300-hour placement and a 400-hour placement. So those are not co-ops, unfortunately. And the major difference between co-ops and placements is that co-ops are paid and placements are unpaid. But the co-op programs work where you are alternating, or some of your terms at Trent will be work terms, and some of your terms will be study terms. It is across all of our co-op programs, you will be either working or either completing co-op or completing your studies over the summer months. The schedules for all of our co-op programs are available on our career space website, trentu.ca/co-op, and you can detail into each of the particular co-ops. I think I just saw a question about English literature co-op that Sarah managed to get before I could see it, trying to hide it from me tonight, Sarah. You can actually see the structure of those co-ops. You can see what terms you'll be in class, what terms you'll be working, and you will be working or doing schoolwork during some of those summer months as well.
Great. And with that, I think it's perfect timing to wrap up this live stream. Closed all the questions. So hopefully we were able to help answer all those wonderful questions that you folks had today. But if you do have any further questions, please don't hesitate to reach out to us at any point. Our contact information, I just put it into the chat. You can send us an email at discovertrent@trentu.ca or discovertrentdurham@trentu.ca, and we'd be happy to help you out. Right now, I just want to say thank you so much, Connor, for joining us this evening, taking the time to give us that wonderful presentation and then answer all of our questions for us. Thank you folks so much for joining us as well. Hopefully it was helpful and informative and didn't feel like a waste of your time. I know it certainly didn't feel like a waste of mine being here with all you folks today, but I will let you enjoy the rest of your evening. Thank you again so much, and take care, and feel free to reach out with any questions. Bye.
Have a wonderful evening, everyone. Thank you.